Music plays, we'd like to invite you to just close your eyes, relax, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Ganapataye namo namaha. 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 Omega Dantaya Vidmahi Vakrajundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Ganapataye namo namaha. 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 Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignakara Dura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignakara Dura Hamari.
Namaste. Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that basically means spiritual community, literally community of truth. So wherever two or more seekers of truth on the path of awakening and transformation come together to share their presence, their energy, their journeys, you got a satsang. And it's a very important part of the spiritual journey for all of us to join with others who are in the process of awakening. And when we do this online, we transcend all boundaries. We have people join us from all around the world, other continents, from the other side of the planet. So, welcome. It's a very important time for humanity to shift from the global insanity of competition, conflict, and war to a new earth rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. And that won't come through a religious movement or a political movement or a philosophical movement or any of the things that have been tried throughout history. It will come through a shift in the collective consciousness of humanity brought about by the awakening of individuals beyond the veil of separation and duality into oneness with all that is. So that's our mission, is to help awaken as many people as possible. To that end, we have a spiritual center in Clearwater, Florida. We do various online presentations. But one of the main tools that we have to share is what we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It is a transmission of divine presence, enlightened consciousness, unconditional love that comes directly from the divine source to catalyze the awakening process in the individual who receives it. The divine told Suzanne and me 8 years ago, this doesn't belong to you. It doesn't come through any avatar or master or hierarchy or saint or organization. It comes from me. And I give it to anyone I wish as a gift of grace, of unconditional love, so don't charge for it. And if people want to be, having experienced it, want to be instruments of this blessing to share with others, let them know that when they've received it once, they've been initiated to be able to open themselves as instruments of grace. And you're soaking in it right now. So please join us in inviting the divine to pour the Flowering Heart Blessing through us to all the participants in the satsang, to all who will be viewing the video recording of this at any time in the future, and for all the intentions that we and others bring to this satsang. And we'll be sharing the Flowering Heart Blessing non-stop through the entire satsang. So you can just soak it up. Just float in it, let it transform you, heal you, awaken you, and invite the divine to pour it through you to everyone else too. So we will be opening the door to much deeper and more powerful blessings a little later on. So whatever needs, whatever burdens you've brought with you tonight, we'll be taking a special intention about that, and we'll all be focusing on whatever needs or circumstances you brought with you tonight. And in the meantime, we will open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey, about awakening, any areas of spirituality, meditation, reincarnation, ascension, anything. Ask that little voice inside of you if there's something that you might throw out as a question in the satsang, an area where you'd like a little more light, a little more clarity yourself, and we'll all benefit from that. So, we've already got a couple, but I'm going to give a few more minutes before we dive into those and read some quotes. Each week, I've been taking little articles and lists of quotes from a website called inspiringquotes.com. And some of them are quite lovely. Tonight, we're going to the article, and the quotes that we're going to be sharing with you are 14 quotes to inspire a minimalist lifestyle. And this was put together by Tony Donnell, an English writer of nonfiction and fiction living on the edge of the Amazonian jungle. Amazon jungle. So, here's the little introduction that Tony wrote. The concept of minimalism has been around in one form or another for a long time, albeit under various names. Frugality, thriftiness, a Spartan lifestyle, and to different extremes. As far back as 450 BCE, Socrates was extolling the simple life, saying, quote, "The secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less," unquote. Centuries later, after World War II, an entire artistic movement embraced minimalism, particularly in the visual arts, as a reaction against abstract expressionism and modernism. Well, I like all those things. More recently, a new interest in minimalism has emerged, one that focuses directly on the way we live. Proponents such as Marie Kondo, Joshua Fields Milburn, and Joshua Becker have written best-selling books and created popular websites focused on helping people live a more pared-down lifestyle, with the ultimate goal of improving quality of life, reducing stress, and being happier overall. Decluttering the home is a large part of the new minimalist process. No surprise. As recent research suggests, the average home contains a whopping 300,000 items. But clutter is only one element. A minimalist lifestyle also has environmental and financial benefits, as well as time savings. It means less time buying, less time consuming, less time tidying the house, and less time looking for car keys or the TV remote. The average American spends 2.5 days a year looking for misplaced items, according to one study. A minimalist lifestyle, therefore, can offer many advantages, both practical and emotional. But if you're still not sure about throwing away half the stuff in your home, here's some quotes from minimalist advocates, both past and present. So let's dive in. Our first one. Do not trouble yourself much to get new things, whether clothes or friends. Turn the old, return to them. Things do not change, we change. Sell your clothes and keep your thoughts. Henry David Thoreau. It is preoccupation with possession more than anything else that prevents men from living freely and nobly. Bertrand Russell. Reduce the complexity of life by eliminating the needless wants of life, and the labors of life reduce themselves. Edwin Way Teal. We go on multiplying our conveniences, only to multiply our cares. We increase our possessions, only to the enlargement of our anxieties. Anna Bracken. Owning less is better than organizing more. Joshua Becker. If you want a golden rule that will fit everybody, this is it. Have nothing in your houses that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. William Morris. Minimalism is asking why before you buy.
That's easy to remember.
Francine J. The consumption society has made us feel that happiness lies in having things, and has failed to teach us the happiness of not having things. Elise Boulding. Keep only those things that speak to your heart. Then take the plunge and discard all the rest. By doing this, you can reset your life and embark on a new lifestyle.
But what about plungers?
Marie Kondo. Plungers speak to my heart. Okay. Minimalism is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's important, so you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus. Be a curator of your life. Slowly cut things out until you're left only with what you love, with what's necessary, with what makes you happy. Leo Babauta. And that would include plungers.
Yes.
No. Minimalism is really about reassessment of priorities, so you can remove unnecessary things from your life. Get rid of things like possessions, activities, and relationships that do not improve or bring value to your life. Jane Andrews. Buy less. Choose well. Make it last. Vivian Westward. More was never the answer. The answer, it turned out, was always less. Kate Flanders. Some things to think about, to be sure. Suzanne has been nicknamed sometimes the Queen of Thrift, and also a semi-hoarder. So you got both things going on. We have this big house that we got to start a spiritual center, and we've had thousands of people come through processes here. However, that means there are a lot of rooms and a lot of room. And we're usually focused on other things than trimming it down. So that spoke to me as much as it did to anyone. All right. So, I'll just read More's first. I need to ask Suzanne for her secrets for her joy. You want to share any secrets?
I think a big part of it is just waking up grateful every morning and being grateful for everything that we have, the friendships, the relationships, the family, and ask the divine every day. I ask the divine every day, how can I be a blessing and of service to as many people as possible today? So I just, it's just in my heart to spread joy and peace and happiness. That's a big part of it, setting the intention.
We read a quote a few weeks ago. I don't remember who said it. I think it might have been Khalil Gibran. But some people serve for the joy of it.
Yeah.
And that joy is their reward.
Right.
So Michael Christopher asks, so what's the deal with aliens?
We were just talking about that on the beach tonight. That's funny.
So what's the deal with aliens and or otherworldly beings? Are they good, bad, neutral? Can they be interacted with safely? Or is it best to keep your distance? Yes. To all of the above. What's the deal with aliens? Well, I'd be an idiot if I told you I could tell you what's the deal with aliens. But one of the things that came up in our discussions on the beach tonight with some very intelligent people that have been around a lot was that Carl Sagan, who many of you know is a great scientist and what
Author.
was astrophysicist, or I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what you'd term him, but he was brilliant. And Carl Sagan was essentially an agnostic. I mean, he did not per se have religious faith in God. And surprisingly, he said that it is statistically and scientifically impossible to believe that there is not other intelligent life in this universe. That's just an absurd notion. So, given the size of this one universe we know anything about, when there are countless alternative universes and dimensions in the divine, wow. I mean, there are billions of galaxies, each have billions of stars, and the whole thing is expanding, obviously, at the speed of light, at least. And so that's a lot of room, a lot of possible combinations of atoms and molecules. And Sagan just did the math and said it is absolutely impossible that there is not other intelligent life in the universe. He did say, given the nature of the material physical universe, we're probably very lucky that they didn't find us first, because he had this predatory view. But okay, I don't require any convincing that there are aliens. Personally, over the years, I've had close encounters. Since I was a kid in Florida, when I was like 8, 10 years old, a bunch of us in broad daylight, several teachers and probably about 30 students on the playground at recess, and there were this formation overhead of these silver spheres that were just hovered, just hanging there. And they began to dance in all these patterns, moving really amazing, with acrobatics that I don't know any flying craft now that could do that. And that was in the early 1960s. And then they just, and it's broad daylight. And everybody's looking up at the sky with our mouths hanging open. And then in a clear blue sky, they just went, pew, and they were gone. From there to so far gone, they were out of sight in like a fraction of a second. So this kid grew up knowing there are interesting things going on out there. And even the scientific community and the Pentagon can't stop trying to figure out what these things are, because there have been so many experiences that pilots have had with extraterrestrial somethings. Or maybe they're extra dimensional. That's another possibility, is that our sensory apparatus is only able to sense certain vibratory wavelengths. We don't see all the light that there is. We only see certain levels, spectrums, that our human eyes are capable and our brains of processing. And the same is true of everything else. There are multi-layers to this very world in which we're living right now. And so when people are talking about extra-dimensional beings as being from outer space, who knows, really? But I've seen over the years I could just go on for a long time talking to you about close encounters that I had in years past. I came to the conclusion that they didn't really have anything to do with my dharma, my purpose here. I mean, maybe yours, I can't speak for you, but when I lived in Northern California and spent a lot of time around Mount Shasta and going to Hawaii, that's where the most amazing and intense manifestations of extra-dimensional beings were manifested. And it wasn't always comfortable. And there are different kinds of them. Some are much more like us, like light beings in human form. And then there are those little grays that people that claim they've been abducted, it was the little grays, and they did all this experimentation on people who had that experience. I have a friend, a good friend in California, one of my dearest friends. He's a Taoist master, but he's also a clinical doctoral psychotherapist who had a public practice, retired now, practiced for many years in Los Angeles. And so many people came to him saying that they were having these close encounters and dreams and abductions, that he decided to form a group so that these people could get some comfort together sharing their experiences. And one of the things is that their experiences were remarkably similar, parallel, the same in some instances. And there was that. But as my friend was exposed to the stories of these people he was working with, his clients, he began to have close encounters. And it seemed like his interaction in offering therapy to these people who are a bit traumatized by the experiences was opening the door for him to be just like a little intimidation, like back off. But then there are others who are much more like us, only full of light, that say that they're here to help humanity evolve. I don't know. I'm just saying I've been exposed to different beings, different kinds of beings, different interdimensional crafts, and all of that. And so the next question you ask is, are they good, bad, or neutral? You know, good and bad is a difficult classification. I mean, are human beings good or bad or neutral? Well, you'd say it depends on the person, right, and what they do. I think the same is true with extra-dimensional beings. Some we would perceive as good and helpful. Others we might perceive as negative, that might get in the way of the purpose of our life. Some may be much more neutral. They're just, we accidentally cross paths because they're living in the same universe, touching the same world, Earth. So can they be interacted with safely? Yeah, probably. Or is it best to keep your distance? I keep my distance from the little grays. No offense to y'all, but really. So some people have a fascination with them. I would say this, that after some very intense close encounters, which were occurring to me in an absolute sober frame of mind with other people with me on numerous occasions, the stuff's real. A couple of stories were a little scary, so I'm just not going to tell them, but when I came to a point in my life where I had a near-death experience and I was caught up out of my body, down the dark tunnel to a brilliant light at the end of the tunnel. And I'd seen this before in meditation over the years. I had experienced near-death experiences before where I left my body and my mind and dissolved in the void. But this time, I met Christ at the end of the tunnel. And my life changed at that point because he gave me a commission and told me, here's what's going to happen over the next 10 years in your life, and it all did unfold. But I noticed that as soon as that relationship solidified and I was very clear on what my dharmic purpose was here on earth, all close encounters stopped. That's interesting. I wasn't trying to make them stop. I didn't want any more of them, but in that intense connection with the light beings and Christ and the angels, that stuff stopped. So I don't think it's that they're good or bad. I just think that for most of us, they may not, at this point in history, have a lot to do with our life's purpose on this planet. Now, more and more I'm getting stories of people having psychic surgery at the hands of interdimensional beings. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it was being done in Arrigo of the Rusty Knife years ago. I think he was in the Philippines. And then John of God in Brazil. So many people were having these amazing psychic surgeries that were being assisted by extra-dimensional entities. And then it turned out the whole thing was not such a good place. Over 600 women and children were abused sexually. While these entities are supposedly helping people, they had evidently no problem letting that go on for all those years. So it me scratching my head. I always felt like not going there. And I love Brazil. Please, if you're from Brazil, love you. You live in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's just amazing, and it's huge. But
I personally would not be comfortable with psychic surgery or that kind of thing from entities. A big part of the energy work that I do, and also just keeping myself in the house and things clear during the day, is making sure that we have our own cosmic little bubble here with our auras and our energy field. And when you start to open up intense fear or negative emotions, or the stuff of the mind, when that stuff comes up, it can actually create a hole in this protective bubble that we have. And if we're feeling down or we're feeling upset about something, sometimes entities will come in and take advantage of that little hole and feed on our vital life force, feed on our energy. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's fine to interact with people and things and places and stuff, but I would never be comfortable with inviting an entity to work on my brain, especially, but any other part of my body, because part of our journey here on the planet is to heal and to open our hearts and have more divine love and energy inside of ourselves, and that makes us more whole and more united. But when we're relying on something outside of ourselves to do things for us, we're missing a part of the learning curve. We're missing what emotions we may need to still be healed, and what we need to do for our bodies to be healthier, and all of these different levels of our being need to be addressed. And so if you just expect somebody, we've gotten so programmed to just get a prescription and take a pill and your whole world is going to be better. But we're multifaceted and multi-level beings, and we need to accept the responsibility of taking care of ourselves.
Basically, we as human beings have created quite a collective mess here, and we as human beings are commissioned to straighten it out. We do have assistance, but I feel much more comfortable with angels mm-hmm. and with the divine itself. When I first started going to India, this wasn't even a discussion, but I was having these really amazing experiences and spending months at a time there. And my Taoist master, the master of my youth, who was in his elder years at that time, pulled me aside. I met him at a workshop across the state here, and he pulled me aside and said, "Michael, do not let them operate on your brain. If you do, I can't fix it." And I went, "What are you talking about?" I had no intention of letting I had no idea what that was about. And then a few years later, we were told that extra-dimensional beings, entities, were actually operating on our brains to bring about awakening. And my master, who said, don't let them operate on your brain, he was quite awakened. And so awakened, he could see that this was ahead in my path. And he said, "Don't do it." So, what do you suppose I did? I mean, he always knew, Master Lu, I think he must have known by then that throughout, because he knew me from the time I was 17 years old, that whenever he told me, "Don't look behind that door," I was going to open that door. Don't do that. I was going to go try it. Unfortunately, I survived. My whole life is a cautionary tale. I got the title, if I ever write the book, I got the title today.
What
and
not to do.
No, the title of the book would be Seeking What Was Never Lost, a cautionary tale.
Ooh,
Seeking What Was Never Lost. It's the story of my life. So that's what I would say about that. I mean, but I'm glad if there are extra-dimensional beings that are allies and really friends of humanity and can offer help. But mostly, we're supposed to develop a direct relationship with the indwelling divine. Whether you're from the East Vedic tradition, then it would be the Paramatma, the indwelling divine presence. Whatever tradition you're from, at the center of your being is Source. And if we develop a direct, what Suzanne was saying about relying on other people to fix us, more and more we're to be weaned from our dependence on external sources and deepen our roots into the internal source. And that's true with human spiritual teachers as well. So it's complicated enough getting weaned of all the trappings of rituals and ceremonies and spiritual practices and teachers and hierarchies and all that outside of us to discover that we're the ones we're looking for. You just add in the mix of an infinite number of extra-dimensional beings that we really don't know what their deal is. Yeah, let them rewire your brain. I don't know.
And that interconnection with our higher self and the divine is also another great source of joy for me, because when you start to deepen in that and trust in the divine presence and get to know yourself better and heal, it's easier to be in a state of joy, even in the midst of all the chaos in the world today. What's the expression? Keep your eyes single. You'll be filled with light.
So Maury wrote, do you believe in the theory of family constellations? Related to the repetition of family and ancestral relationship patterns. I have a difficult situation with a daughter who is still in Venezuela and feels very intense. I'm not specifically familiar with the theory of family constellations, but I think I get a sense of it's like group souls that travel through lifetimes together, kind of as a constellation. I mean, you may be mother now and she's daughter. Last time around, she might have been mother and you might have been the intense daughter. And so in that kind of point of view of reincarnating groups of souls, okay, it's possible. It makes sense. Because what keeps us reincarnating, if it isn't that we're bodhisattvas here because we're enlightened just to help, is that we have these karmic tendencies within ourselves that are called vasanas in Sanskrit, and Buddhism has a lot to say about it. Sri Bhagwan calls them personalities, but they're karmic tendencies. And so we're with a group of people, our family and our friends, where we share certain patterns of interaction. If those are not fully resolved and dissolved, then it just makes sense that we probably move through time and space, some of us together that way. But
I've always had a little bit of a hard time with that concept because we meet so many people in our lives that we just instantly connect with, and sometimes we don't connect with family members. And I think that we can play out some of those dramas that we may have had with family members in a past life with other people that aren't our family cluster. I remember meeting a woman, I was traveling, and we looked at each other from across this lawn. She was from Sweden, I think, and we both just looked at each other and we both had this feeling of, you're back. I've missed you. And, we'll email each other every once in a while and stuff, but it was just that recognition of, I know that soul and I recognize you. And that happens quite a bit. And that can happen just, with a complete stranger, or you can have a recognition of one of your children, but I'm not sure about this whole thing of the clusters traveling together from life to life, because we've got, this big journey when we're alive, and we can learn and work through our programs and our charges in so many different ways. You may just watch a TV show and go, wow, I never saw it like that before. And that wasn't from my cluster. It was part of my personal growth and my soul's journey.
We, just as human beings, are part of a huge cluster, the
Right.
human family,
Cluster beep.
Exactly. I almost said it, but I didn't. But let me throw just a teeny little wrench in the works from Zen. Because the Buddhist tradition tends to propagate the idea of reincarnation, as does the Hindu tradition and others. But one of the things I love, a Zen Buddhist point of view, is that there is no self. There is no self. But here's a bucket full of water that has been drawn from the ocean of consciousness. And that bucket is you. At the end of this particular journey, that bucket, it doesn't perish. The water spirit never dies. Consciousness never dies. But the bucket is poured back into the ocean. And this Zen teaching says, how could you ever draw the same bucket full of water out again? Not possible. So that kind of blows away the whole idea of you being a separate self that is journeying through countless lifetimes. But there's strong evidence for that as well.
Right.
But I just love that at the end of this journey, your consciousness just is poured back into the ocean and you merge with all that is. And then another bucket may be drawn out, but it's not the same. It's not the same bucket full of water. Something to think about. So Morey also said, have you heard of Cryon? Yes. And I can't say much about him, except we've had a couple of really good friends that became quite devoted to Cryon.
I don't know what Cryon is.
It's a channeled entity.
Oh.
Just in general, I'm not so much into channeled entities, because we have a direct open door to God herself. And we're invited, come to me, seek me, and you'll find me. So I don't invest a lot of confidence in channeled wisdom,
right,
except what has come through true prophets and seers that have been proven. And that's tricky, because there have been a lot of mystics and seers, like that guy in Brazil, who wasn't doing cool stuff. But he's channeling all this wisdom from all these entities and claimed that they were like St. Ignatius of Loyola, a great Christian saint who was quite austere and never would have put up with that monkey business. Right. So that's the thing. I don't dismiss channeled wisdom. I mean, the Urantia book, we have friends that are very devoted to it. It's about 4 inches thick and supposed to tell the story of the whole universe. And this was channeled through a particular individual over a period of years who would basically lie down and go into trance and channel this stuff. I don't know.
I think discernment is really, really important, especially in this time that we're living in right now. We need discernment from our hearts, and we have to strengthen that ability to get discernment in our hearts, because there's so much misinformation now, and we know a lot of people that are into channeled books, and they're like, this is the history of the world, this is the truth, and I go within and I say, does that resonate with my heart? Does that feel true to me? And if it doesn't, I'm like, okay, that's one person's theory, you've bought it hook, line, and sinker, but that doesn't resonate with my heart. And I tend to do that with pretty much everything, including food. You know, does this food right now resonate with my highest vibration? Does this interaction with somebody, you know, how can it be of the highest fruit? But as far as just believing anything, I think we all need a lot more discernment right now, and that's got to start in the heart and hearing directly from Source itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dear friend of mine from India told me one day that the whole story of Christ totally manufactured, not true. I mean, he did not. There was no cross. There was no resurrection. That didn't happen. I mean, I know the stories of Mithra and the other spirit. I could go into this for hours, but I've met the guy. So, and he said, I am absolutely certain. And that guy's dead now, whoever he was. And I said, and how do you know this? And it was channeled wisdom. And it wasn't even his channeled wisdom.
Right.
It was channeled through someone else, and it bore witness to his heart. And that troubles me when I've seen so many people whose hearts are bearing witness to channeled wisdom that I sometimes have known were coming from entities that were not helpful.
Right. There's a lot of deception when you're dealing with entities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just saying, enough of that. And Joanne said, yes, I like the theory. I think that was back into some of that Zen stuff and about the group souls. And said, good wisdom tonight. More said, I asked myself, what can I learn from each person? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Beautiful.
We all have light and shadows.
Beautiful.
That is true. That is true. I suppose if I had visited Charles Manson in prison and I had to sit there with him, I would be asking, what can I learn from this person? But I don't want to learn from that person.
Right.
I don't think I need to. There's so many pure... But yes, to be open that all of us have some light. Mm-hmm. All of us have some shadows. And to be open to that light, that's true. But tonight the discussion went a lot into disembodied entities. And that's a whole different ball of wax than meeting another human being that I know has both good and evil inside, and I should be tolerant of the one and open to the other. We need real discernment when it comes to extra-dimensional entities. I've had a lot of experience with it, for better or for worse. I had to pay back some dues many decades ago where I served as an exorcist. And I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But I can tell you, there are entities that you don't want to sit down and...
What can I learn from you?
Sympathy for the devil's dumb. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Moving right along. Because, wow, we talked ourselves. No, there isn't.
No, there was a thought that I was going to say to that. I've always found that I can learn so much if I'm not talking. That, if you just let people talk and express themselves, and yes, you're going to have a conversation and back and forth, but the more that I've aged, the more that I've learned that listening is just so important. It's very, very important.
And not running people through like a mental discernment where we're going to judge you and come to a determination. It's not like that. It's dropping into your heart. Always extend to the other being unconditional love. And that goes for entities or anything. Just love, love, love. But I'm more selective about allowing that to work on me from the other way.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, that's part of when I'm helping people clear entities, is I always say, please send any cord entities or attachments back from where it came or into the heart of the divine with love, whatever is in the highest order.
So we may end up going over a little, we always do, but Arte Illuminativo writes, what can be learned from the death of a wife, husband? A lot could be learned. I mean, how to actually be alone and not dramatically codependent, but also to learn that nothing ever dies. And that anyone we love is never absent from our spirit, our life. I mean, simply, we can transcend apparent separation in time and space with a wife or a husband who's close, because we have that deep love connection, which is rooted in spirit. In spirit, there is no death. There is no time. There is no separation or distance. You're as dead as you're ever going to be, because you are a spirit being. And spirit is without beginning and without end. It is eternal now for eternity. So there's the potential with the death of a wife or a husband to tap into that bond, that experience that transcends physical separation. But we'd have to know a lot more about the relationship. If it's a bad one, it could be liberation. You know, glad that's over. There's so many things we can learn about the importance of allowing ourselves to feel grief.
Yeah, the grieving process, that's what I was thinking, to make sure you really go through the grieving process, because at the end of it, you'll be so much more clear and full than if you don't allow yourself to go through the grieving process. And we can also learn more about our emotions, more about our attachments, more about how we view the world, how we interact with people in the world. Like Michael said, you might be, somewhat liberated, because you'll be doing things from your perspective, not from the perspective of a couple. And you might find that there are things that you never did because you were in that relationship, but you always wanted to try. So it's also can really be a time of self-exploration.
Maury, I know you're pointing to something that's right on. I'm just not quite sure how to frame it. Maury wrote about love. What can be learned from the loss of a husband, wife? Mm-hmm. About love?
Right.
Question mark? Yeah, I mean,
that's
sure.
True too.
Yeah.
Very much so. Thank you. All righty.
So, it's time to continue. Close your eyes, please. Dive in to your heart of hearts and invoke the presence. Whatever you've brought with you tonight, whatever burden you're carrying, whatever need in your life, just gently release it to the divine presence. This presence who lives in you is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving. It yearns to free you. From all suffering, from all sense of separation, for there is no distance between you and anything or anyone else, including the divine source itself, who is the source of all joy, all peace, all love, all fulfillment. So just open yourself and begin to drink in the blessing of the divine presence. Before you even ask, the divine knows what you need and has the wisdom and the power to give it to you. We often get in our own way because of self-judgment. There's no separation at all. It's all in the mind. And all the programming that we got from the world. You've never lost the divine presence, the light of source. So just relax now. Breathe it in, drink it in, soak it up. Let the light of the divine flood your heart with enlightened consciousness, awakening. Allow that light to just flood and sweep through your soul, clearing negative thinking and programming and emotions, and replacing it with inspired feelings and ideas. Just allow it to flow through your physical body, to heal your pain, your sickness, all disease. And shine out into your relationships to heal them and set them right. And out into the world to bring awakening light and healing and peace to people all around you. Just keep taking it in. Receive, allow, consent, release. Now when you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just make sure you keep gazing at least one of our eyes as we dive into the light meditation. In this meditation, Suzanne and I are flooded with oceans of unconditional love, light, grace, and it pours through every part of our being, but especially through our eyes, which mystics have called the doorways of the soul. The light streams out of our eyes, in through your eyes, into your heart of hearts, to cause the light of awakening and the flames of divine love to burn brighter and brighter and brighter within you. All you need to do is just keep looking. could close your eyes now. Meditate with us for a few more moments as the grace settles within. Now keep meditating as long as it feels nice to you. Or you could lie down in Shavasana nearby, find a place you can lie on your back, close your eyes, let your arms rest loosely at your sides with the palms open, turned upward, and just allow yourself to dissolve in the presence with gratitude. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we cross paths again, know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you. And we bow to you. Namaste.